object. So ENG is a variable which is belongs to iEngine data type. ENG is a variable which is belongs to iEngine type. iEngine is a interface. We cannot create the object for the interface, so we can inject implementation class object into that variable. We can inject implementation class object into that variable. Okay, void set ENG iEngine engine. This dot ENG is equal to engine void drive method, engine dot start method. So by using this ENG variable, we are calling this start method. Yes or no? By using that ENG variable, we are calling the start method. That means for that ENG variable, some object should be injected. Okay, here if you see this programmatic approach, if you see this programmatic approach, clear guys? Now private iEngine ENG void set ENG, private iEngine ENG void set ENG, private iEngine ENG void set ENG. We are able to call this method. For that, I am creating object for the diesel engine. That object I am storing into this variable. That variable I am passing as a parameter to this setter method. That means I am passing that object as a parameter to setter method. That setter method is storing the value. This value is stored to this variable. That value is stored to this variable. Whatever the value we are getting, that value is stored to this variable by using setter method. That is programmatic way of injecting the object into another class variable by using setter method. But as a programmer, we no need to do that. We can inform the IOC container to perform to do that. We can perform IOC container to perform to do that. Okay. Now IOC container will do based on our configuration. IOC container will do based on our configuration. What is the configuration we need to do for IOC? Can you guys check this configuration? We have done this configuration. Bean ID we are configuring, and car as a bean we are configuring. Okay, car as a bean we are configuring. Car as a bean we are configuring. Good, fine. Now, so that car is expecting engine object. Okay, how we are doing that engine object into car object? How we are injecting the engine object into car object? We are injecting that by using property tag. What is the meaning of the property tag? Setter injection. Okay, good. Are you guys able to understand this configuration, guys? Today also I am going to spend the time on dependency injection, because without understanding the dependency injection, you cannot understand anything in the Spring and Spring Boot. Without understanding dependency injection and IOC containers, you cannot understand anything. You got my point, huh? Good. Now, here we have a program. Okay? Car class is available. Car class is expecting engine object. For that we are using property tag. Car class is expecting engine object. For that we are using property tag. Property name is equal to ENG, ref is equal to DENG. That means that bean object we are passing as a parameter to the ref. That means the setter method will be called with the DENG object as a parameter. Then this is going to inject the value to the variable. That is called setter injection. That is what we have developed in the previous class. Now I am not interested to do the setter injection. I want to perform the constructor injection. Can we do the constructor injection also? Can we do the constructor injection also? Yes. Now here I'm going to take private I engine ENG, public of car, for car class, object I'm expecting engine object. Okay. So whenever you create the object for the car, we are passing the engine object as a parameter. So that object will be injected to this variable. As the object is injecting to the variable through constructor, this is called as a constructor injection. This is called as a constructor injection. How to perform the constructor injection? Through configuration by using constructor-arg. Name is equal to ENG, ref is equal to DENG. Are you able to understand? How to perform setter injection using IOC container? How to perform constructor injection by using IOC container? How to perform setter injection by using IOC container? How to perform constructor injection by using IOC container? Yes or no? Okay. Now, let's try to develop one more application for the same concept, guys. Then you will get the perfection on the concept. Let us develop one more example on the IOC container and the dependency injection, setter injection and constructor injection. For you people, I am developing one more example on the setter injection and the constructor injection. I'm going to once you get the clarity on the IOC container dependency injections, then we will start with the Spring Boot. Currently we are discussing about the Spring basics only. Once we are done with this IOC container dependency injections, then we are going to start with the Spring Boot concepts. Are you guys clear with this? Okay. Now let us take one requirement. Let us take one requirement. Can anyone tell me any requirement that we can do by using dependency injection? Can you guess any requirement? Can you guess any requirement? Come on. Student address, employee address, ये बहुत. Student address, employee address, these are student level examples, fresher level. Think like real time. Think like a real time. Can I take ATM and printer? ATM requires printer or not? ATM requires printer or not? When you go for the ATM, you will withdraw the money or you will deposit the money. You will withdraw the money and you will deposit the money in the ATM. Some ATM machines will allow you to withdraw money. Some ATMs will allow you to withdraw and deposit the money also. When you have done withdraw or deposit, it is going to print you statement. One paper will be printed for you. The receipt will be printed for you. The receipt will be printed for you by the printer. Okay. Can we take that scenario and can we understand the dependency injection now? Can we take that scenario and can we understand the dependency injection now? Come on, guys. Let's try to understand that scenario. Okay. Here I'm taking one interface which is called as iPrinter. iPrinter is going to have one method called print method. iPrinter is having a method called print method. iPrinter is an interface that is having one method called print method. The duty of that method is used to print the receipt. That's it. iPrinter is having a print method. That print method is going to print the receipt. Now, here I'm going to take one ATM class. Now, for this printer, there is one implementation called Sony printer. Sony company developed a printer. Sony printer class is available. Sony printer class is going to implement this interface. Sony printer class is going to implement this interface. iPrinter is a interface. Sony printer class is going to provide the implementation. Let me represent this in the different color. Here, iPrinter is a interface. Sony printer is a class. I means interface, C means class. I means interface, C means class. Okay. Next one. Here, I have one class with a name called ATM. I have one class called ATM. Inside the ATM, I need a printer, because whenever you perform any operation in the ATM, we need to print a receipt. We need to print the receipt. Now here, I'm writing one method, void withdraw. Void withdraw or message string withdraw. String withdraw double amount. String withdraw double amount. Okay, this is my ATM class. This is my ATM class. Good. Inside the ATM class, I have one variable and I have one method. Inside the ATM class, I have one variable and I have one method. Method is withdraw, variable is a printer. ATM is the class. Now, ATM class is dependent on printer or not. ATM class is dependent on printer or not. Come on. ATM class is dependent on printer or not. Okay. Now here, whenever we have done the transaction, ATM is responsible to print the receipt for the customer. That is the requirement. When customer performs withdraw operation, money withdraw operation in the ATM, then it should print receipt for the customer. It should print receipt for the customer. To print a receipt for the customer, ATM will use a printer inside. Inside ATM, printer will be available, which is responsible to print the receipt. Now, that means what is the point here? Note, as per the requirement, we are understanding that. We are understanding that ATM is dependent on printer for printing. ATM itself can print, or ATM is dependent on the printer. ATM can do the printing of the receipt. ATM should use a printer to print the receipt. ATM should use a printer to print it. Now, so you now tell me which class is dependent on which class? Now tell me which class is dependent on which class? Which class is dependent on which class now? Printer is dependent on the ATM, or ATM is dependent on printer? ATM dependent on printer. Now tell me, ATM object should be injected to printer, or printer object should be injected to ATM? ATM object should be injected to printer, or printer object should be injected to ATM? You guys tell me, sir. ATM is dependent on the printer, or printer is dependent on the ATM? ATM is dependent on the printer. So printer should be injected to ATM, or ATM should be injected to printer? ATM should be injected to printer, or printer should be injected to ATM? Printer should be injected to ATM. Printer should be injected to ATM. Come on. Able to understand this? ATM is dependent on the printer. ATM is dependent on the printer. Okay. Can we develop a application for this requirement, guys? Can we develop a application for this requirement now? Okay. Observe carefully. Observe carefully. Observe carefully. What I'm going to do to create a project. File, new, Maven project. File, new, Maven project. I'm going to create one Maven project. Observe carefully. I'm using Spring Toolsuit IDE. In the Spring Toolsuit IDE, I'm creating a Maven project. File, new, Maven project. Here I'm selecting create a simple project. Skip archetype selection. Click on next. Group ID, that is in dot Ashok IT. Artifact ID is 03 Spring IOC app. That means it is our third application. That means it is our third application we are using to understand IOC container. Okay. Version number same. Package jar. Okay. Group ID in dot Ashok IT. And artifact ID. Artifact ID I am using 03 Spring IOC app. Click on finish. Click on finish. Click on finish. Alright, my project is getting created. Once the project got created, we need to add the dependency to our project form.xml. From where we can find the dependencies, guys? We can find the dependency in mvnrepository.com. We can find the dependencies available in the Maven repository. Okay. Good. Now here, let's try for a dependency with a name called Spring Context. I'm searching for one dependency with a name called Spring Context. Spring Context, 1 second. Spring Context. Click on this version number. Copy this. Now, come to pom.xml file. Write one tag called dependencies. Inside that, we are writing dependency. We are taking one tag with a name called dependencies. Inside that, we are writing one tag called dependency. Group ID, artifact ID, and version. Group ID, artifact ID, and version. I have added a dependency. Guys, whenever I have added context dependency, you see, it is getting only context dependency, or it is getting some other dependencies also. Maven is getting only context dependency, or it is getting AOP, beans, core, JCL, expression and all. It is downloading all the required dependencies. That is called transduce dependency management. in the Java real-time project we discussed about it. What is transitive dependency management? We discussed about what is transitive dependency management. Whenever I add Spring context, it is downloading the required dependencies also along with that. That's fine. Okay, now let's go to our project creation now. Let's go to our project creation now. I need a interface. First I am going to create a interface. What is that? iPrinter. Now, interface I am going to create inside a package. What is the interface name? iPrinter. Now here I am going to take a package in data Ashoka IT. In data Ashoka IT. iPrinter interface. Inside the interface, I want to write one method. What is that method? Public void print method. Public void print method. For this interface, I am writing one implementation class. What is the implementation class here? I am taking a class with a name called Sony printer. Sony company printer is implementing that interface. Now, inside the Sony printer, I will implement that interface. A class is implementing a interface. A class is implementing a interface. When we are implementing that interface, we need to override the variables. We need to override the methods. Sorry, interface methods we need to override here. I am overriding the methods called print method. I am overriding the method called print method. Good. Inside this method I am writing system.out.println receipt printing. Receipt printing. That's it. Receipt printing. That is the responsibility of this method. It is responsible to print the receipt. Okay. Now let us go for our class with a name called ATM. Let's go for our class with a name called ATM. Inside the ATM, I want to write the method. Inside the ATM, I want to write a method. I want to write the method public string withdraw. Public string withdraw. Public string withdraw. Okay. Good. Good. Now here inside the withdraw method, system.out.println amount withdrawal completed, amount withdrawal success, amount withdrawal success. Okay, now after amount withdrawal completed successfully, we have to print it. The printing logic available in the Sony printer. Now what I am going to take is private iPrinter printer. Private iPrinter printer. Now here I am going to call printer.print method. Printer.print method, the message to display on the screen. Printer.print method, amount withdrawal success. Printer.print method, we are going to call, finally we are going to return withdraw success. Withdraw success. It is going to return that value. Okay. If I execute this program, is there any problem?
Yeah.
Or there is no problem?
Eh?
If I execute this program,
Amma,
is
etla
there any
porukundante?
problem or there is no problem?
Go.
Is there any problem or there is no problem? Null pointer exception. Perfect. This is going to give us the null pointer exception. It is going to give you null pointer exception. Okay, why? Because this is a variable which is holding a object type. This is a variable which is going to hold null value by default. Null value by default. Okay, now I need to inject a value to this variable. Can I do injection by using a setter method? Can I write a set printer, iPrinter printer? Can I take a set method here? Can I take a set method here? This dot printer is equal to printer. This dot printer is equal to printer. This dot printer is equal to printer. Okay, this dot printer is equal to printer. What is the meaning of this, guys? What I am doing here? This is used to inject the printer object into this variable. This is used to inject the printer object into this variable. Initializing the variable through setter method. Right. Do I need to initialize this by calling the setter, or I can inform to IOC container to do that? Do I need to do that, or IOC container will do that? Do I need to do that, or IOC container will do that? IOC container will do that. IOC container will do by default. We need to provide some configuration as the input for the IOC. We need to provide some configuration as a input for the IOC. Observe where I am going to create that configuration. Right click on the resources folder. Right click on the resources folder. New bean configuration file. See here, when I am right clicking on the resources folder, I am choosing new. In that new, I am choosing Spring Bean configuration file. What is that? That bean configuration file we are going to provide as a input for IOC container. That bean configuration file we are providing as a input for IOC container. Bean configuration file. Can I give any name for that file? Can I give any name for that file? Yes, you can give any name for that file. Now, today I am writing as beansconfig.xml. Yesterday I have given as a beans.xml. Today I am giving as a beansconfig.xml. File name can be anything. That's not an issue. Next and finish. Next and finish. That's it. We are able to create the bean configuration file. We are able to configure the bean configuration file. Now, okay. Here, if you observe, I have iPrinter class. Development procedure, guys. Here I have created a project, and here I have taken iPrinter. This is one interface for us. This is one interface for us. For this interface, we are having one implementation also. For this interface, we are having one implementation also. We are having one implementation also. Now, here we are having another class called car class. Here we are, ATM class. We are having another class called ATM class. Got it? We are having another class called ATM class. Inside the ATM, we are using printer. Now, how to write the configuration for this? How to write the configuration for this? Can you guys please do the configuration in the notepad, and can you send me in the chat box? I want to inform the IOC container to perform the dependency injection. I want to inform the IOC to perform the dependency injection. Can you guys tell me how to do that? Can you guys tell me how to do that now? Can you guys tell me how to do that now? Come on, guys. Can you do the configuration? Can you send me the configuration in the chat box? Very simple. First we need to configure Sony printer as a bean. First we need to configure Sony printer as a bean. Bean ID is equal to printer. Bean ID is equal to printer. You can give any name for that. I'm giving that as a Sony printer. Class is equal to Sony printer. Fully qualified class name we have to write. I have configured Sony printer as a Spring Bean. Why we are configuring Sony printer as a Spring Bean? IOC container will create the object for that. As a programmer, I am not interested to create the object. I want IOC container to create the object for that. Similarly, ATM is available. I want to configure ATM also as a Spring Bean. Bean ID is equal to ATM. And class is equal to qualified class name ATM. Qualified class name ATM. Now, ATM is dependent on the printer or ATM is not dependent on the printer. ATM is dependent on the printer or ATM is not dependent on the printer. ATM is dependent on the printer. How can we inject the printer into the ATM? Through setter method. How to represent a setter method in the configuration? By using property. Property name is equal to printer, ref is equal to, that means to this printer variable, which object you want to inject? Sony printer object we want to inject. Ref is equal to Sony printer. This is the configuration. Bean ID is equal to Sony printer, class is equal to in.ashok_id.Sony printer. That means Sony printer class we represented as a Spring Bean. Sony printer class we represented as a Spring Bean. Are you getting my point? Bean ID is equal to ATM, class is equal to in.ashok_id.ATM, property name is equal to printer, ref is equal to Sony printer. Ref is equal to Sony printer. Are you guys clear with this one? Are you guys clear with this one? Yes or no? Very good. Very good. Now, I want to start the IOC container to test my application functionality. I want to start the IOC container to test my functionality. Okay, let's go for test class. Let's go for test class. Do you know how to start the IOC container now? Do you know how to start the IOC container now? Yes, to start the IOC container we are going for application context. Context is equal to application context is equal to new class path XML application context. Application context is equal to new class path XML application context. It is expecting file name. What is the name of the file? beansconfig.xml. What is the name of the file we are giving, guys? beansconfig.xml. Application context is equal to new class path XML application context. For that we are giving beansconfig.xml. For that we are giving beansconfig.xml. What is the meaning of that? I'm starting the IOC container by giving beansconfig.xml file as an input. I'm starting IOC container. For that IOC container I am passing beansconfig.xml file as an input. Beansconfig.xml file I'm configuring as an input. Beansconfig.xml file I'm configuring as an input. Are you guys clear with this? Are you guys clear with this? Beansconfig.xml file I'm giving as an input. Okay. What IOC container will do? It is going to read the file and it is going to create the objects available for the beans available in the beans configuration file. Okay. It is going to create the object and it is going to perform the dependency injection. I want the bean. I want the ATM bean. How to get the object from the IOC container? By using context.getBean of ATM.class. Context.getBean of ATM.class. Okay, now I got the ATM object. Context.getBean of ATM.class. I got the ATM object. Now ATM.withdraw. ATM.withdraw. Are you guys okay with this one? ATM dot withdraw. Oh, right. ATM dot withdraw. Context dot get being of ATM dot class. I got the ATM dot withdraw. Now it is going to give the message status. System dot out dot println. System dot out dot println the status. Okay. Now run this program. See the console, receipt printing and withdraw success. If you observe in this application, are you creating object for the printer programmatically? Are you creating object for the ATM programmatically? Are you injecting the printer object into the ATM object? Nothing we are doing. What we are doing? We are just starting the IOC container. IOC container is performing the operation on behalf of us. We are not going to perform the dependency injections here. IOC container is taking care of the dependency injection. IOC container is injecting the object into one class object into another class object. That is called dependency injection. IOC container is performing that dependency injection for us. Instead of we are doing the dependency injection, IOC container is doing the dependency injection for us. Instead of we are doing the dependency injection, IOC container is doing the dependency injection for us. Are you guys clear with this? Yeah. Now I have a question. What type of dependency injection performed by the IOC container? Is it doing a setter injection or is it doing a constructor injection? IOC container doing the setter injection, IOC container doing the constructor injection, IOC container doing the setter injection, or IOC container doing the constructor injection now? IOC container is doing a setter injection. Okay. What is the meaning of the setter injection? Setter injection nothing but injecting the dependent object into target object using target class setter method. Injecting the object into a variable through setter method. Then it is called as a setter injection. Can I do that by using constructor also? Can I do this by using constructor also? Yes, let's comment it. Write a constructor. Inside the constructor, you can take this parameter. Whatever the value you want to inject, you can inject through constructor. Whenever you go for a constructor, then what we will do? Instead of the property tag, we are going to write which tag, guys. Instead of the property tag, we are going to write which tag? We are going to write the constructor-arg tag. Constructor-arg name is equal to printer, ref is equal to Sony printer. Constructor-arg name is equal to printer, reference is equal to Sony printer. Are you guys clear with this? Are you guys clear with this? Are you guys clear with this? Come on. Perfect. Okay, now let's do the testing. Is a constructor injection working or not? Receipt printing, withdraw success. Constructor injection is also working. Setter injection is working. Constructor injection is also working. So this is setter injection example. Similarly, we can do that using constructor injection also. Now, in the above scenario, IOC performing setter injection. What is setter injection? The process of injecting dependent bean object into target bean object is called as setter injection. The process of injecting dependent bean object into target bean object is called as setter injection. I hope you got clarity with that. Okay. Next one, what is constructor injection? We are just changing our program. We are just changing our program. We are commenting the setter method and we are writing a constructor in the class. We are commenting the setter method and we are writing a constructor in the class. Whenever you change from setter to constructor, configuration also going to change. Whenever you change from setter to constructor, your configuration is also going to change. Configuration is also going to change. What is the change in the configuration? Instead of the property tag, we are writing a constructor-arg tag. Instead of the property tag, we are going to write the constructor-arg tag. Okay. Now, in the above scenario, IOC is performing constructor injection. In the above scenario, IOC performing constructor injection. What is constructor injection? The process of injecting dependent object into target object using target class constructor is called as constructor injection. The process of injecting dependent object into target object, dependent bean, spring bean, right? The process of injecting dependent bean object into target bean object is called as target bean object using target bean set constructor. Using target bean constructor is called as constructor injection. The process of injecting dependent bean object into target bean object using target bean constructor is called as constructor injection. Is called as constructor injection. Are you guys able to follow this? Are you guys able to follow this? Are you guys able to follow this? Come on. Come on, guys. Very good. With this, I hope you got the clarity. What is IOC container? What is dependency injection? What is the setter injection? And what is the constructor injection? Same, whatever we discussed yesterday, nothing is different. Just the example is different. Just the class names are different. Concept is same. Dependency injection. The process of injecting one class object into another class object is called as dependency injection. The process of injecting one class object into another class object is called as dependency injection. The dependency injection we can perform programmatically, but that is not recommended. That is the reason we are going for IOC container to perform the dependency injection. That's why we are asking the IOC container to perform the IOC container. We are telling IOC container use setter method or constructor. If we are asking IOC to perform the dependency injection through setter method, then that will become a setter injection. To represent the setter injection, we are going to use the property tag. If we want to perform the dependency injection through constructor, then we are going to write a constructor and we will tell the IOC to call the constructor to perform the dependency injection. Constructor injection will be represented by using constructor-arg tag. So I hope with this you got the clarity what is the setter injection and what is constructor injection and what is the dependency injection, what is the IOC container. Whatever the task that the programmer is doing normally, here the programmer is not doing that task. Programmer is just telling the IOC to perform the task. Okay? Good, guys. I want everybody to practice these examples, setter and constructor injection, 2 examples. Yesterday car engine program, today ATM printer program. I want you people to practice before coming to tomorrow's session, don't copy paste my code. Don't copy paste my code. You have to write the code on your own. You have to write the code on your own, guys. You have to write the code on your own. Don't copy paste my code. Don't copy paste my code. Okay, good. And one small announcement, guys. Inform to your friends or your juniors who are interested to learn the frameworks in the Java. Tomorrow, day after tomorrow, 18th November, we are starting Java frameworks batch. In that, Hibernate will be explained, Hibernate framework will be covered, Spring Basics, Spring Core module will be explained, then Spring Boot and microservices also will be explained. Faculty is well-known faculty in the market. Mr. Shekhar sir is having 15 plus years of experience. He is going to take these classes from 18th November, 8 a.m. IST. Zoom link is available to register for this. If anybody is interested, please inform to your friends so that they can join for that course in the morning, 8 a.m. Okay. Now this course is directly Spring Boot and microservices, right? There, he will explain the Hibernate also and some basics of the Spring Core. What are the Spring basics I'm explaining? He will explain those Spring basics and he will start with the Spring Boot and microservices. Please inform to your juniors if they want to learn the complete frameworks from one faculty, all the package. Hibernate, Spring Boot microservices, they can learn from that. Here we are discussing Spring Boot microservices. Their complete Java frameworks package he is going to take from 18th November. Inform to your friends. Zoom link available in the Telegram. They can register with the Zoom link. Directly they can attend on the 18th November, day after tomorrow at 8 a.m. with the Zoom link. Zoom link available here. Okay. Good. Thank you guys. Thank you. With this I'm stopping for today. We'll continue from tomorrow onwards.
Bye bye.